Welcome back, beautiful New York tri state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Today, we're debuting the Bosque Ranch live speaker series leading up to one of the most anticipated music experiences of the year, the Bosque Ranch live music concert series happening this September at the ranch, Texas headquarters of filmmaker and storyteller Taylor Sheridan. And if you've spent any time inside Sheridan's television universe, whether it's Yellowstone, 1883, or the hit drama Landman, you may have noticed something remarkable. The music in these shows isn't just background, it behaves almost like another character in the cast. It sets the emotional tone, it drives the narrative, and perhaps most importantly, it introduces audiences to artists they might never have discovered otherwise. Industry analysts now call this the phenomenon the Yellowstone effect. And according to music analytics firm Illuminate, songs featured on Yellowstone have experienced streaming spikes ranging from 200% to well over 1,000% within days of airing, with many independent artists suddenly seeing their touring audiences and fan bases multiply almost overnight. Which brings us to today's conversation. We're going to be chatting how the Yellowstone effect is turning independent bands into new country powerhouses. Joining us now to kick off the Bosque Ranch live speaker series is Shane Smith, the lead singer and songwriter behind Shane Smith and the Saints. Their blend of red dirt country, folk, and roadhouse rock caught the attention of millions when their song All I See Is You appeared in Yellowstone, with additional music featured in Landman, placing them squarely in the storytelling universe created by Taylor Sheridan. Now, as one of the featured artists connected to the Bosque Ranch live concert series, Shane represents a powerful shift happening across the music industry, the rise of the independent artist in the streaming era. Shane, welcome to the show, superstar.
Hey there, how are you?
So excited to have you on.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are really talented, my friend, and that helps a great deal. But let's talk about the road before the spotlight. So, before the national spotlight arrived, you and the band spent years doing what many musicians still consider the real proving ground, right? The road. Dive bars, dance halls, small venues. I mean, sometimes playing hundreds of shows a year. So, looking back now, how did those early years grinding it out on the road shape the identity and really the chemistry of Shane Smith and the Saints?
I think honestly, it gave us a lot of opportunity to find our own sound and to figure out who we want to be as a band. If I'm being honest with you, there wasn't the pressure of being signed to a label almost immediately out the gates to where we don't even know who we are yet. We don't even know what we're trying to become. We had a decade of figuring that out before we got any kind of an opportunity at all. And so I think in a way that's a blessing. You know, a lot of people could say, oh, well, man, it's taken us forever to catch a break or whatever. But I saw it kind of as a blessing in that we were a lot more prepared than we would have been by the time it actually happened for us.
And Shane, that's such a powerful reminder that the artists who build longevity in this industry are often the ones who first build their audiences face to face, long before the algorithms ever catch up. And I think, your history and your journey leading up to obviously the Bosque Ranch here speaks volumes. So congratulations again. Not everybody can execute.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
So let's chat about the Yellowstone effect. So let's talk about the moment many fans discovered your music. Okay. So the placement of All I See Is You on Yellowstone introduced your sound to millions of viewers. And we've seen similar surges across the show's soundtrack. So, for example, when Whiskey Myers appeared on the show, their album jumped to number one on the iTunes country chart, really just demonstrating how powerful that very exposure can be. So, when that episode aired, what changed the most for you? Whether it was streaming numbers, ticket sales, or the way new fans started discovering your music?
Um, I think it was honestly all of the above. The streaming, we went like we had never really been like featured on the app Shazam, where it's like you hear a song at a restaurant or somewhere, and you use the Shazam app to listen and figure out what the song is. We had gone to like number one or number two, I think, on Shazam like immediately, and I want to say it was like within the first like evening that that song was featured. I want to say it was like 700,000 times people had Shazammed it, like just during the live episode. And and so it's like things like that that was crazy for us. You know, we hadn't experienced anything like that before. And anyway, so yeah, like at that point we had built out like I think 250,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, but those were all people that we had gained from touring. We had never been on a single Spotify playlist. We had never been featured on anything at all in terms of like algorithmic playlists or editorial playlists that you see on Spotify. We had never gotten on anything, but we had built up that 250,000 monthly listeners just by like touring our butts off. It's so you had that many people roughly out there waiting for us to have a moment. There were, you know, for us to get a win, it was them getting a win as well, which was so cool to have a fan base that shares your experiences like that. And anyway, so it all just I think of it more of like a rather than a viral moment, it just like connected so many dots for our fans that were already out there. And it just helped us to immediately see our Spotify numbers go up. Our a lot of our social media helped as well. But it was primarily like our listenership and just our name awareness, honestly, and our music awareness.
That really highlights how storytelling and music do intersect in a very powerful way, because
Yeah,
when a song appears in a moment that resonates with audiences, it stops being background. It really becomes part of the emotional memory of the story. You did such a fantastic job with that song. So now let's talk about the rise of the independent artist. So one of the most fascinating things about your career, Shane, is that so much of it has happened outside the traditional Nashville, if you will, label machine, right? I mean,
right.
you got like to what you just alluded to, you got streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. They've created opportunities for artists to really reach global audiences independently, but it still takes an incredible amount of work to stand out. So, do you feel like there were do you feel like we're witnessing a real shift where independent artists can build careers through touring, streaming, and direct fan connection rather than just relying solely on the traditional label system?
Yeah, I think it's like a trade-off, right? Because it's like you could sell 100 physical CDs and make $1,000. Like that's just cash in hand that might help you get fuel and get you down the road for your next show. But you also the trade-off of like the streaming thing is like you could have 1,000 streams or let's say even 10,000 streams of a song, and you're probably not going to be paid a fraction of what you would have made off of selling those CDs, right? And but the difference is you have an opportunity to if people are searching it out, they have the ability to search you out globally across the world. They can find you if your music is on that platform. And so it's like it's a trade-off. Like some people would rather see it the old way, some people would like to see it the new way. I think the reality though is that you really have to land those playlist spots if you're wanting to see big growth and so you know it's definitely a trade-off right now. It's a big learning curve for a lot of folks that have come up the old way like us honestly, but we've been very fortunate that, you know, honestly, through that show and through other connections that we've made, it's just over time, we've had better and better luck with the Spotify playlisting, and it's definitely helped us you know, take our music from what was like a nationwide touring type of operation to, you know, we've gone overseas, I think 5 times now, and we tour overseas often, you know, as a part of our yearly regiment. So, you know, does the Spotify thing help? I would imagine it does, probably when you're trying to do that. So yeah, it's all changing a lot, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there for people to take advantage of it and just kind of ride the wave that we're given, you know, at the time.
Let's talk about fame and the ongoing hustle. So, one misconception people have about the music industry is that once artists reach a certain level, sold out shows, major placements, global audiences, the grind finally slows down. But many independent musicians say the opposite is true. Now that the band is reaching larger audiences and bigger venues, does it feel like you've finally arrived, or does it still feel like the journey is just beginning?
In a lot of ways, it does feel like it's just beginning. It's just a very different type of workload than it was before. A lot of it's similar. You know, you've got better sleeping arrangements, you've got better hospitality arrangements, you have a lot of things that are a lot nicer than they were before. Um, However, your workload does definitely increase and the demand increases a lot, which is a great thing. You know, it's all you could ask for. And so yeah, I think that I'm trying to think of like the best examples of that, but it's just like when things become a little bit more legitimate, it's just your demand goes up and even your schedule with the way that you operate, you have to be on a much more regimented schedule. And yeah, I would say that one big blessing that we get out of it is that I feel like we're finally at a place where we get to determine like how much we want to work each year, how much do we want to tour each year, how much time are we willing to spend away from our families versus how much are we gonna like, hunker down and we're gonna do 100 shows this year, we're gonna do 80 shows this year, whatever that number is. Having some success gives you, it allows you to kind of hold the reins and hold the cards and determine that for yourself. And so, that's the biggest, uh, advantage and blessing that I take away from it these days. Like, even though the workload is heavier, I think it's just so awesome being able to say, this is what we're going to do this year in terms of touring.
Yeah, I love that perspective because the artists who really endure are often the ones who stay focused on the craft rather than the spotlight. And there's something very powerful in being able to say no, right? You're at a place where you can now say no if it doesn't fit your roadmap. And I,
Yeah.
I think and that's the difference, right? Because before it was like you take what you can get. Now you're stepping into another fascinating chapter with the Bosque Ranch live music concert series happening this September 12th at the ranch. I'm so excited to see you perform. For fans of Taylor Sheridan's productions, the music has always felt like an essential part of the storytelling, almost an invisible cast member shaping the emotional tone of the scene, if you will. What excites you the most about performing in a place like Bosque Ranch, where music and storytelling are so deeply intertwined?
Well, honestly, I'm just excited to see Taylor and some of the family again and see we've made buddies with quite a few of that cast and a lot of those actors. Like, once you start working with Taylor, in a lot of ways it crosses over. A lot of those actors, like, you might have someone in the Lioness series as well as the Yellowstone series, or Landman, or 1883, or whatever it is. It's like, um and it really has created like just a really cool network kind of family of actors and staff, that all kind of dabble in different in the different shows. And a lot of times at events like this, we get to catch up and say what's up to them. And so, anyways, I'm just looking forward to the camaraderie and the hang, and obviously the Bosque Ranch is a beautiful place. We got to play out there several years ago, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll be drawing a pretty great fan base out of the DFW area for it, and it should be a hell of a time.
That Bosque Ranch live music concert series never disappoints. I know that last year it was quite the hit. Everyone's anticipating what surprises will be unveiled, and the experiences I heard are epic. So I definitely can't wait to be there myself. And it's really a unique intersection of Hollywood and live music, almost like stepping directly into the soundtrack itself, if you will.
For sure.
Now let's talk about advice you have to emerging artists. So today there are countless musicians trying to carve their own path, building audiences through touring and streaming and social media rather than waiting for a record label to discover them, to your point. So based on everything you have experienced, from those dive bars to the TV soundtracks, what advice would you give the next generation of independent artists trying to break through?
From what I've found is like, man, when you're passionate about something and you believe in something, you will find a way to make it happen. And that's the reality, I think. No matter what avenue you have, to make it happen. I do think that it is something that comes from within, and you just continue to just find any way you can to get another foot forward and to stay positive and to just make sure that you're trying to put good out there, and if you're making music, make music that's going to do good for somebody, hopefully, and and I think that as long as you just you keep your head you know, strong and focused, I don't think that there's a lot that can stop you from continuing to make progress, even if it's tiny amounts of progress at a time over a long course of time. I just think that eventually, progress will allude to whatever you're trying to get to.
Shane, this has been such a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and being transparent. And I mean, your story is a reminder that sometimes the most powerful movements in music begin far away from the spotlight and in small venues and in those long road trips and loyal fans who believe in the sound before the rest of the world catches on, like your story and those 250,000 local that consistent fan base. And so for our listeners, this is just the beginning of the Bosque Ranch Live speaker series leading up to the Bosque Ranch Live Music Concert Series happening this September. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and look forward to seeing you out there.
To learn more about the concert series and upcoming artists, you can visit bosqueranchllive.com and you can follow Shane and the band on the gram at Shane Smith Music and at Bosque Ranch headquarters. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. That was the Bosque Ranch Live speaker series brought to you by Bosque Ranch Live. We'll be right back after this.